This is Horn Takes Podcast. You're sometimes very, very rough around the edges. Texas sports talk destination. I'm your host, Sean Redfern. Folks, I'm 3 days away from a Fletcher's corn dog and about a half 100 wax cup beers. And then I'm 4 days away. We're all 4 days away from the Red River Shootout, so getting super excited about that. We got all in our live fan feels on the KU win yesterday. We got all that out on Exaggeration Monday. Now it's time to see what our drunk self got wrong and what we got right on the after action review. Check us out on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Trying to build those bases of followers, trying to build up those subscriptions on YouTube. I think we just hit 100 here recently. I know that doesn't sound like much, but I never thought 100 people would care. That's cool. If you just like to listen to podcasts, check us out on horntakespodcast.buzzsprout.com or anywhere that you get your podcasts, because it's pretty much everywhere. Real quick, again, we have a new format for the show. Used to be every Tuesday night, every Thursday night, 6 p.m. Central. Thought I'd switch it up. So now we're going Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday. We're going to be doing those at noon Central Time. Just check it out, see how it goes. So far, I'm really liking it. I know I'm only on my second show of doing it, but so far I think it's really good. It keeps me engaged. I don't have so much time in between shows. Let's get into this after action review on the Kansas Jayhawks, number 24 KU at number 3 Texas. We thought that this was still basically the same KU team that Texas really pushed around hard in 2022 up in Lawrence. Weren't really overly impressed with their schedule to this point. We looked at a lot of stats and we said, man, this KU team looks surprisingly good statistically, but when you really dig into it, it's not as impressive as it looks. We had Texas 45-20. Texas, of course, wins the game 40-14. I had 3 big questions for this game. I have big questions every single game, but I had 3 for this game. Number 1 was, could the offense make a quick start in back-to-back weeks? They started really quickly against Baylor. I think they scored 7 times in their first 9 drives. 4 of those were touchdowns. But we hadn't really seen Texas start that quickly offensively in a game until that Baylor game. So my question was, could we do that again against, again, a statistically really stingy Kansas defense? They scored on the first 3 drives. They missed a field goal attempt on the 4th. So I guess technically you'd say they did get a quick start. But really, it didn't feel like it. You go into halftime 13-7 with multiple chances to score. You leave 2 red zone opportunities with field goals. They got down the field. They moved the balls between the 20s. Just got to figure out a way to convert those things. That's going to be an area where Texas offensively just needs to be better. Question number 2 was, can the Texas defense shut down a really good KU ground attack? Got Jalen Daniels. Got Devin Neal, who was coming in at almost 400 yards rushing, almost 7 yards per carry, 5 touchdowns already. We knew we were going to see triple option. And then we didn't get Jalen Daniels. We got Zach Bean. And I know everybody's talking trash about Zach Bean and how Texas got to face another backup quarterback, but Zach Bean is not like your typical backup. He played a lot last year, and he's more athletic than Jalen Daniels. He threw 4 touchdown passes against the Oklahoma Sooners last year. Man, I think he threw for like almost 2,000 yards last season, this Zach Bean kid. So it's not like some dude that's never played before started that game for KU. Devin Neal ended up with 45 yards in this game. KU had 124 and 1 touchdown as a team. A lot of that came on one run. Their first touchdown Zach Bean got down the field, got smashed by Jalen Catalon. And then the running back was right there to pick it up and take it the rest of the way for a touchdown. I really felt like KU gave up on the perimeter game in this game like way too early. I mean, they almost didn't do it at all in the second half. I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe they weren't getting a look that they wanted to get. I don't know. That's the only thing I could think of is Texas went in, changed something just a little bit defensively in their alignment, and KU didn't like it. And so they just didn't do it. So Texas absolutely shut down a really, really powerful Kansas running game. And then the other thing is, could the Texas ground game produce its third impressive game in as many weeks? We saw the ground game start off pretty slow. Wasn't very effective against Rice. Wasn't very effective, like from a numbers perspective, against Alabama. But situationally, there were some really good moments in the run game for Texas in that game in Tuscaloosa. But we just didn't see any of the big, breakout type stuff that we're, I wouldn't say used to seeing. I guess we are kind of used to seeing it with Bijan Robinson. We were certainly hopeful that we would see it. Wyoming game was a little bit better. Baylor game was really, really good. KU with the 25th ranked rushing defense, 93 yards a game. I think anytime you can hold opponents on average to less than 100 yards per game, that is really, really salty from a defensive perspective. Just looking at it on the surface. Texas ends up rushing for 336 yards in this game, just 40, 50 yards shy of what they rushed for last season up in Lawrence. Had 4 touchdowns, which was 2 shy of what they had last season up in Lawrence. So all 3 of our questions got answered in a positive way. I think the one that you could look at and say maybe it wasn't as positive as we would have hoped, and certainly not as positive as it could have been, was the quick start piece by the offense. We talked Thursday about, statistically this team had really gaudy numbers. And I started digging into it, and man, I said it on the show, and it was part of my prediction. These statistics are fool's gold. This KU team is not. Now, they may be very good, and they're certainly undefeated, and they're talented. Like I've been saying that all summer. KU's a talented team. It's not your old KU team, right? This KU team is much closer to that really good, 2007 KU team with the Hamburglar at the helm. It's closer to that team than it is what we all think of when we think of KU football. KU's rushing offense, 217 yards a game. Texas held them to 124. KU passing offense, 245 yards a game. Texas held them to 136. KU scoring offense, 37 points per game. Texas held them to 14. KU rushing defense, 93 a game. Texas goes for 336. We already talked about that. Brooks had 218 and 2 touchdowns by himself. Quinn Ewers adds the other 2 touchdowns, one of them on a nice 31, 32-yard run. The KU passing defense, 203 yards per game coming in, 325 by Texas. Adonai Mitchell, 10 catches, 141 yards, and a touchdown. Xavier Worthy probably had the quietest, damn near 100-yard receiving game in the history of football. He had 7 catches for 93 yards, and some of those were big catches. Adonai Mitchell had some really big catches on third downs. Whittington, 2 for 18. Whittington, I think, is a guy, he had a third down, I think it was 3rd and 6, something like that. Just got past the sticks, made a nice grab. I think Jordan Whittington's a guy that we may see break out a little bit this weekend against OU. I mean, the problem with defending Texas right now is there's too many people to defend. You got Worthy, you got Mitchell, you got Whittington. JT Sanders is a big key. Can he go? Kind of came up a little limpy in that first quarter of the KU game, got rolled up on. Not sure if he's going to go. If he goes, though, just what a absolute rough matchup that guy is for anybody. And then you got to worry about backs slipping out of the backfield. Every single one of those guys can catch. Jonathan Brooks is a really, really good pass catcher, and I'm not sure Cedric Baxter doesn't look smoother and more at home coming out of the backfield than he does. So I think you get caught up trying to keep Worthy and trying to keep Mitchell in check, and then I think maybe you even start with JT Sanders. I mean, if I was Oklahoma, I wouldn't want JT Sanders to beat me again. And he certainly beat him last year. So maybe that's where they start. And if that's where they start, you're going to see Jordan Whittington be a lot open a lot of the time Saturday morning. Game starts Saturday morning. It'll peel over into Saturday afternoon. So we were right both times. It doesn't matter. Talked about it. The running backs continue to be a threat out of the backfield. 3 catches for 39 yards for those guys. And then you flip it over, and we didn't really even dig into this that much when we kind of started diving into these statistics. We didn't do a deep enough dive on Deep Dive Thursday, which will be coming up this Thursday. We'll do our first ever Deep Dive Thursday. KU scoring defense, 22 a game. Texas scores 40. Texas eclipsed their season average in all the offensive categories. We talked about it, 155 yards per game per Texas, 336 in this game, 277 yards passing on the season for Texas, 325 in this game. Scoring 35 a game. Scoring in this game 40. And then our defense against their offense, we're giving up 87 yards per game on the ground. Gave up 124. Not too bad. Not too good. Defense, 211 yards passing per game. Only gave up 136 in this one. And then the big one, I think. Obviously, this is the big one for me. 12 points per game was the average. We gave up 14. 661 yards combined for Texas was the most Texas has ever recorded in a Big 12 game. And just think about that for a minute. Think about the offenses that have played at the University of Texas since the inception of the Big 12. Vince Young and Colt McCoy led offenses in the Big 12, and they led them to Big 12 titles and national championship appearances, and in one case, a national championship. So those were some really good offensive teams, and Texas just blew them out of the water in 2023. I think it was probably the quietest 300-yard passing effort I've ever seen. I was watching the game, I didn't ever think to myself, Quinn's got to be close to 300 yards. It just wasn't a ton of big plays. It was a lot of efficient plays and just a lot of completions. Thought the guys did a really good job, holding on to balls. We didn't see a lot of drops, if any. I think there may have been one play where maybe the ball was a little bit behind somebody and they got their hands on it, just couldn't reel it in. Other than that, The misses were misses and an interception. The money downs in this game hugely favored the Texas Longhorns. Kansas was 0 for 8 on third down, and they were the best team in the country coming into this game in third down efficiency on offense. They were 0 for 2 on fourth down. So 0 for 10 on the money downs offensively was Kansas. Texas went 9 for 15 on third down and 2 for 2 on fourth down. So you just can't do much better than that. How wrong was Live Sean from After Action Review Sean? No, I don't think so at all. I mean, I think Live Sean had a lot more cuss words. And I think Live Sean was a lot more invested emotionally. I think you felt that on Exaggeration Monday. But Texas absolutely dominated this game. Every possible way you could think of on the scoreboard, statistically, in the trenches. It was a world-class ass whooping. We would have liked to see more points, and we certainly could have seen more points. Missed 2 field goals. Missed 2 opportunities down in the red zone to score touchdowns. This puts me at 4-1, picking games for Texas. I should be 5-0, but I did not go with my heart. There's a heart fandom. There's a logical fandom. I went with the logical fandom right before the Alabama game. Didn't work out for me, which is fine. You win some, you lose some. I got to win it in the stadium. That was awesome. Week 5 Tres Otra games. Number 10, we did terrible this week, by the way. We almost did the worst you could possibly do in the Week 5 Tres Otra games. First game was number 10, Utah, at number 19, Oregon State. Man, I said I am surprised by this line. Utah is battle tested. They beat Florida. They beat UCLA, a ranked team. Oregon State hadn't played anybody, and the team they have played, Washington State, who I believe was a ranked team at the time, beat them. Man, I really like Utah's toughness on defense. I said Utah 23, Oregon State 17, and I'll be damned, Oregon State put it on them. That Oregon State running game is really good. We talked about that too, how that was kind of their, they got DJU and he's doing really well, but the running game there at Oregon State, that's really what makes them go. And it went, and Utah couldn't catch the ball. Bless that kid's heart, that backup quarterback for Utah. He wasn't perfect, but he put some balls close enough that some guys should have made some plays and not embarrassed us on Tres Otra games. We'll recap. Next one up, number 13 LSU at number 20 Ole Miss. I said, man, why is this line so close? I think it was -2, -2.5. When it came down to prediction time, I said, I think we have a tendency to overthink these things sometimes. I don't think LSU has the roster to beat, I don't think Ole Miss has the roster to beat LSU. I like LSU 27-23 in this game. Wrong. 55-49 Ole Miss. Huge defensive struggle in this game, folks. What the hell, LSU? How did their defense get that bad? LSU is a team that we talked about yesterday in our random college football thoughts. There are 2 teams that after Saturday that made their conference championship games last year that just aren't going to do it this year, and LSU is one of them. Their defense is garbage. So now we're 0 for 2 in Tres Otra games. Turn on the night game. It's number 11 Notre Dame at number 17 Duke. Prediction time comes around. I said I like this Duke defense, man. They held Clemson. Should have been to 0. Muff punt gets Clemson close. Clemson was able to punch it in to make it 28-7 in that game. Really good defensively against the pass. just okay. I mean, I would say good against the run, not great, not bad, not, scale of 3, they're a 2. They take the ball away really well, that Duke defense. But I just thought Notre Dame, man, too much in the trenches, just too powerful on both sides of the ball in the trenches. I had Indy 30, Duke 23. Ends up being 21-14 Notre Dame. And man, that was like the worst ending to a game that I didn't really care about in my entire life. I was totally ready to be 0-3 this week and be happy about it. And then what was it, 4th and 16? The two or three plays before that, Duke just lights Sam Hartman's ass up with blitzes. He throws the ball away. He's not ready for it. He's not prepared for it. And then on 4th and 16, they just sit back. They get absolutely no pressure on him. Scampers for 17, 18 yards on 4th. I mean, just an unbelievably heartbreaking play for the Duke Blue Devils. And then the sad part is I think their quarterback, I need to look it up and see how he's doing. It looked like he had a really bad ankle injury, not like season ending or anything, I don't think. Not like a dislocation or a break, but man, it looked twisted up hard. Definitely looked like a high ankle sprain, and those are tough. So yeah, man. I was 1 for 3 this week with the Tres Otra games picks. That makes me 7 of 15 on the season for a really shitty 47%. I have to pick like some no-brainers this week to get back on track. Would that be cheating? Random college football thoughts. This part is not so random, but I just wanted it. I don't know. Red River Shootout, man. What makes it so great? And we'll do more of this later on in the week, but this is just the first. I started thinking about this basically on Monday, maybe Sunday. And I just started like thinking, why is the people argue all the time, which is the greatest rivalry? And most people end up on Michigan, Ohio State, Alabama, Auburn seems to always be really high on this list. And then I feel like the Red River Shootout kind of gets disrespected most of the time on most of these lists. Sometimes it's as low as 4 or 5 on the greatest rivalries, and that's total bullshit. Let's talk about it. So why is the Red River Shootout so great? Well, first of all, you got the State Fair. I think the State Fair makes this one so unique. State Fair at Texas is a huge deal. So much going on. And then you got a football stadium smack dab in the middle of it. And that's where everybody goes to watch this big ass rivalry football game every October. You got your Corndogs, you got your wax cup beers, you got your fried anything imaginable. You got 46,000 fans walking around the fairgrounds in burnt orange. You got 46,000 fans in that pukey ass crimson walking around the fairgrounds. And by the way, folks, you're piled into the fairgrounds. There's 92,000 additional people in the fairgrounds that wouldn't normally be there. Not a single one of those 92,000 fans knows what's going to happen on that game. They don't even know. I mean, you might have a few people that luck into getting it right on this game, but this game is a crazy rivalry when you look at the scores. You look at how much underdogs have won this game. I mean, even in seasons where I felt like Texas absolutely was a team that could contend for a national championship, like a really good Texas team, even against sometimes not great Oklahoma teams, I've never walked into that place and said, we got this. We're going to, I didn't even feel like that last year. And maybe I'm alone on that, or maybe I'm in the minority on that, but I just feel like You don't know what the hell is going to happen in this game. And I think that's part of what makes it so awesome. You get down to the Cotton Bowl Plaza and you got big ass Big Tex greeting you first thing in the morning, welcoming your ass to the State Fair of Texas in that crazy, weird, automated voice. Dollars are no good inside the State Fair of Texas. Don't bring your dollars, folks. You got to get pockets full of coupons. Everything is coupons. And I think that's kind of cool. I came home with a pocket full of coupons last year, but guess what? I get to reuse them. I can take those things back this year. They're good forever, folks. Your coupons never expire. I don't think there's a greater football feeling in the world than walking around the fairgrounds in victory after that game. And I don't think there's a worse football fan feeling than wanting to just get the hell out of there if your team doesn't win. Then you got the 50-50 split inside the Cotton Bowl. The north end of the stadium, all in burnt orange. The south end of the stadium in crimson. The most unique thing about this game is the dividing line, straight down the 50-yard line. The game used to flip-flop who occupied which end of the field. So in other words, one year Oklahoma would be on the south side. One year they'd go to the north side, and it kind of alternated like that for a while. And at some point they just said, nah, this is too much of I'm assuming like an administrative nightmare for the ticketing. So they just changed it. And now those Longhorns own the north end. The Sooners own the south end. Because of that, the Sooners are right there at the tunnel. And so that means those Texas Longhorns emerge out of that tunnel. And we'll talk about this later today a little bit, but tomorrow, or excuse me, Thursday night on the show, we'll talk a lot about the tunnel. And folks, I had the opportunity and the privilege to go down that tunnel for a football game. And that tunnel is very steep, and all you can see in front of you is like the end zone. So you come down this ramp, super steep ramp, going down the tunnel. And then all of a sudden you pop out. And for Texas players, all they hear is just a chorus of boos. All you can hear is boos. And as you run out onto the field, that suddenly fades away and fades into the familiar sound of 46,000 Texas fans singing Texas Fight at the top of their lungs. I saw a really cool video of the team running out of the tunnel last year. I posted it on my Twitter account. It's just awesome. All you hear is like boos. So at the beginning of this video, you would think Texas was coming out as a visitor on the road somewhere. But no, folks, Red River Shootout. They're just hearing all the Oklahoma fans. And then all of a sudden, the boos break. Texas Fight rolls in louder than you've ever heard it. Really cool. Then, of course, you got the Cotton Bowl. It's a dump, but it's a dump with like a wealth of football history. The Dallas Texans, the Dallas Cowboys, and the SMU Mustangs have called the Cotton Bowl home throughout its history. The Cotton Bowl Classic was played 73 times between 1937 and 2009 there at the Cotton Bowl Stadium. And folks, the Cotton Bowl used to be a battleground for many a national championship. A lot of national championships in college football history were won and lost inside the Cotton Bowl. I talked about how I've had the opportunity to come down that ramp earlier. I played a state semifinal game in the Cotton Bowl in 1995. It was by far the coolest experience I've ever had from like a stadium perspective in high school or in any college or any football. I played in Texas Stadium that year. And I thought the Cotton Bowl was by far just kick ass, the neatest thing ever. And I think a lot of that is that experience coming down that tunnel. Locker rooms back then were small, really, really simple. I mean, simpler than you can possibly imagine. Just a bunch of like cubbies in the wall was the lockers. I don't know, but I imagine it's mostly unchanged. I mean, they've probably like changed the carpet, refinished the lockers, maybe even redone the lockers. But I know nothing on that end of the field has changed in terms of what's there structurally. So the locker rooms are the locker rooms, and they have been forever. There's this unexplainable energy in the air as you walk into the stadium and you try to go find your seats. And I'm a history guy. And so maybe it's like the ghost of Red River Shootout Legends Past buzzing around in anticipation of the greatest game of the season every single year. I don't know. I've been to a lot of big football games. Most recently, I was at Texas, Alabama, and Tuscaloosa. I was at Texas, Alabama, and Austin last year. I've been to Big 12 championships. I've been to several Red River Shootouts, folks, and the Red River Shootouts just always feel different. We'll do more on why the Red River Shootout is so great Thursday at lunch, Thursday noon Central Time. And we'll probably do more about it on our show on Friday, which will be live from an undisclosed location in Dallas, Texas, folks. We're driving down Thursday night. We're going to get up on Friday. We're going to do a show, and then we're going to head on over to the fair. Check out all that. With an 11 a.m. kick, it's tough to... Here's the problem for old people like myself. And coincidentally, subsequently, for my beautiful wife who's not old. 11 a.m. kick, you got to get there really early. You start drinking really early. You drink all throughout the game. And then by the time the game's over, you're just kind of whipped, right? You just want to... It's crowded. It's hard to move around in there. It's just not very fun to be in the fairgrounds. To me, again, an old guy, after that game, win or lose. Which means you try to cram all this stuff in before an 11 a.m. kick, and you just don't get to see it all. So we're going to go see it all on Friday. We're going to enjoy ourselves. And then Saturday is just going to be a business trip for us. The SEC, folks, just means more. Greg Sankey, SEC commissioner, and clearly a much better leader and less petty guy than Big 12 Commissioner Brett Yormark, is set to attend the 119th Red River Shootout between Texas and Oklahoma this Saturday. I think it's a really good move by Sankey. I'm pretty sure he's in Texas to go check out that Alabama and A&M game. He'll probably hang out at the Texas OU game for a half, go hop in a private plane, get down to College Station, go see that game between Alabama and Texas A&M. But I think it's really cool that he's showing up. I think he understands what he has in Texas OU. I think he wants to see what this rivalry is all about. And I think Greg Zanke's like a really good businessman. So I feel like there's probably a little bit of, let me take all this in and see what we might be able to do to make this better. Now, Greg, if any of you guys know Greg, let him know I said this because he's probably not watching this show right now. Don't go fucking up and trying to move this thing to Jerry World. Don't go fucking up and trying to make this thing a home and home. This thing belongs in the Cotton Bowl. It belongs at the state fairgrounds. If you don't like what you see with the Cotton Bowl, let's try to get Dallas to tear that thing down, build a new Cotton Bowl right there in the same spot. Let's do that. If we're going to change anything, let's do that. This thing is just so crazy to me, though. The Big 12 commissioner not even going to be there. And it's all because of jealousy and insecurity and pettiness. Imagine not attending the only ranked matchup for your conference this weekend. And a commissioner from another conference does. And by the way, I'm perfectly fine with the Big 12 wanting to disown Texas and Oklahoma. But if you want to do that, do it all the way. Stop dick riding Texas and Oklahoma in all of your social media tweets and Facebook statuses and all that shit. Just keep them off there. If you don't want to support them, again, I get it. They're leaving. That's fine. Don't brag about how they're highly ranked and undefeated and all that shit anymore. If you're going to keep it real, keep it real. And we'll all respect you more for that. Texas Tech inducts Mike Leach into their Hall of Fame over the weekend. And folks, to me, this is like an ultimate new low by the attention whore Texas Tech organization. I don't, man, like the way they ran him out of there for no good reason at all. It just rubbed me the wrong way. Like I've always been a fan of Mike Leach. I've always thought he was just a hilarious dude. Obviously a good coach. I mean, the dude stood on the sideline with a napkin that had like 4 plays drawn on it. And that's what he, I mean, you see all these other coaches with these really, complex looking pieces of paper that are covered in plastic, and they're, they got like 2 or 3 different. I mean, I've seen coaches that have them hanging from like a lanyard off their pants, and there's a couple of them on there, and they flip through these cards in all these situations. They're meticulously laid out for, God knows what. And then you got Mike Leach standing there with a freaking hotel napkin with some plays drawn on it in pen. And you got to think that was like a troll job on his part. Like, I don't know that I believe that those were the plays. I think he just carried that thing around as a joke because he was always joking. Anyway, Tech tries to get this guy to apologize to Craig James's sorry ass son for some shit that probably didn't happen. Even if it did happen, who gives a shit, man? You didn't get hurt. And Leach basically tells them to go fuck themselves, which I love. So they fire him. They don't pay his family the money they owe him. They don't pay him the money they owe him. Then he passes away. They still don't want to pay the money they owe him. But now that he's gone, they're going to use his name. They're going to trade on his name to help promote their shitty brand. The brand. I just think there's something just terrible about that. And honestly, I can't believe anybody at the Texas Tech athletic department thought that was a good idea. And then I can't believe they probably all had a discussion about it. You know, the ADs, the boosters. And by the way, there's multiple athletic directors. There's an athletic director of almost every department that gets the term AD, gets the title AD, associate AD, something like that. I'm sure a lot of those folks were involved in discussions. The boosters were probably involved in discussions. The regents were probably involved in discussions. And all those dipshits thought it would be a good idea to just go ahead and put Mike Leach in the Hall of Fame. And I don't have a problem with them wanting to put Mike Leach in their Hall of Fame. They should have put Mike Leach in their Hall of Fame like while he was still a coach there. Certainly very soon after him not being a coach there. I just have a problem with the way they've handled the whole thing. And I don't, maybe I'm overreacting. I don't know. I just feel like, where was all this stuff when he was alive, man? Like, why wait until he's gone to honor him when you should have honored him while he was there? You should have honored him by paying his contract. You should still honor him by paying his family, paying his estate the money that you owe him. And I know that's all gone to court, and I don't even know what the outcome is, and I don't really care. I think they did it because dead people can't tell you to fuck off, and I think Leach would have probably told him that. I think the way that whole thing went down really, really hurt Mike Leach. And I'm not a super sentimental guy all the time. Very rarely, as a matter of fact. Like, the only time I get sentimental is if I've had too much to drink, usually. I'll get a little teary about some things. But, man, I don't know, man. The Pirate was one of the best things about college football for me for so many years. And I just thought they treated him like just straight shit. And the irony of the whole thing is, man, that dude was like literally the best coach they're ever going to have. He was the best coach they've ever had. He's the best coach they will ever have. They just don't get it. We got Deep Dive Thursday coming up, Thursday at noon. We'll dig really, really deep into this Oklahoma Sooners matchup in the Cotton Bowl on Saturday in the Red River Shootout. Hopefully we'll have a Horn Takes Travel and Roadshow update. I still don't have my creds. I don't know that I'm going to get my creds. I think I might have applied for them a little too late. We'll do more on why the Red River Shootout is the greatest thing that's ever happened to college football. We'll have some more random college football thoughts. Wednesday night, we'll probably do a TikTok live, 6 p.m. Central Time. Check out the podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can find us on Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Horn Takes. Follow and subscribe. Email me at horntakespodcast@gmail.com with all your questions, comments, concerns, and criticisms. I love them all. You guys get hooked. Have a good Tuesday.